If you are over 60 and you have been pulled aside at airport security in the last few years, there is a very strong chance it had nothing to do with you. I am Maria. I spent 22 years as a flight attendant, walking through security checkpoints hundreds of times a year, alongside passengers of every age. And in this video, I am going to give you the exact list of items, the exact reasons they trigger a flag, and the exact steps to take, so that you walk through security the way most senior travelers never learn to. Without being stopped, without being searched, and without losing 20 minutes of your travel day to a process that was never supposed to catch you in the first place. Drop a comment below right now with your age and the last airport you flew out of, because what you are about to learn might mean you never get pulled aside again. Most seniors who get flagged at security assume they did something wrong. You set off the alarm. An agent asks you to step aside. You feel flustered, maybe embarrassed, definitely delayed. You assume it was the belt you forgot to remove, or the water bottle you thought was empty, or something vague and unavoidable about the process itself. That assumption is wrong, and it is costing you time, comfort, and confidence on every single trip. Here is what the TSA does not put on a sign at the checkpoint. The vast majority of senior travelers who get flagged are not flagged for security reasons at all. They are flagged because of ordinary, everyday items that exist in almost every senior traveler's bag. Items that were completely legal to carry, that the traveler had no reason to question, and that triggered automated screening systems designed for a threat profile that has nothing to do with a 70-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. There are at least 11 categories of items that flag senior travelers at rates far above the general traveling population. They appear in carry-on bags, in personal items, in coat pockets, and in places travelers have been storing them for decades without incident, until the day the scanner sees them differently. I want to tell you about a passenger named Dorothy. She was 74 years old, a retired pharmacist from Missouri, meticulous and organized in everything she did. Dorothy had been flying twice a year to visit her grandchildren for 11 years. In all that time, she had been pulled aside for additional screening 9 times. 9 times. She had always assumed it was random. She had accepted it as part of flying over 60. What Dorothy did not know was that the same 3 items she carried in her personal bag on every single trip, items she had packed without a second thought for over a decade, were triggering the scanner every time. Not because she was a security risk, because her bag looked, to an automated system, exactly like the profile it was designed to stop. When a younger gate agent finally looked at her bag and spent 4 minutes with her explaining what those items were, Dorothy flew through security on her next 6 trips without a single additional screening. She told her travel group about it afterward. Every woman in the group had at least one of the same items in her bag. Nobody had ever told any of them. Dorothy's story is not unusual. It is the pattern. And the reason it keeps happening to senior travelers specifically comes down to 3 things the system understands and the traveler does not. First, seniors are statistically more likely to carry items that were commonplace before modern screening technology existed. Certain medications, certain personal care products, certain tools and accessories that became household staples in the 1970s and 1980s now have shapes, densities, and material compositions that automated scanners read as anomalies. The items are innocent. Second, the items that flag most frequently among senior travelers are almost never discussed in standard pre-travel advice. The TSA website covers liquids and laptops. It does not cover the specific categories that disproportionately affect older travelers, because the system was not designed with older travelers in mind, and the gap has never been formally addressed. Third, and this took me years inside the industry to fully understand, secondary screening is operationally invisible. When a senior traveler is pulled aside, processed, cleared, and sent on their way, The system records a successful screening. There is no flag that says this passenger has been stopped 9 times for the same innocent items and should be informed about what is causing it. The information has to come from someone who knows, and the way it comes to you today is this video. Before I go further, hit that like button right now if you have ever been pulled aside at security and had no idea why. It helps us reach more senior travelers who need this information. And subscribe, because I share these insider tactics every single week. I want to give you the foundation before we get into the specific items, because the list matters, but understanding why these triggers exist is what gives you the confidence to prepare without feeling like the system is working against you. Here is the core principle. TSA screening systems are calibrated for threat probability, not passenger identity. The scanner does not see you. It sees density, shape, and material composition. When your bag contains an item whose density, shape, or composition resembles a known concern, even slightly, even accidentally, the system flags it for a human review. That review almost always clears you immediately, but it costs you time, costs you composure, and in crowded airports can cost you a connection. The entire process is avoidable when you know which items create the false match. The 4 words that change your security experience are, "Can you tell me why?" Not, "Am I in trouble?" which signals anxiety and slows the process. Not, "This is ridiculous," which puts the agent on the defensive and makes the interaction longer. Not silence and compliance, which gives you no information for next time. Just, "Can you tell me why?" It is calm. It is specific. It signals that you are an engaged traveler who wants to understand, not a problem to be managed. Agents are trained to respond to it, and the answer they give you is almost always the exact information you need to never be stopped for that reason again. Now, I'm going to give you the exact items, with the exact reason each one triggers a flag, and the exact step to take to prevent it. These are real. They come from thousands of hours spent in and around security checkpoints. Say these words. Pack your bag this way. It works. Item 1. Pill organizers and loose medication in bags. The situation. You travel with a weekly pill organizer, the kind with 7 compartments, 1 for each day. Or you carry loose pills in a small plastic bag or an unlabeled container because your regular bottles are too large or too heavy for a carry-on. Why it gets flagged? A full weekly pill organizer, viewed from above by an X-ray scanner, presents as a dense, compartmentalized rectangular object with irregular internal contents. The shape and density profile overlaps with items the scanner is trained to identify as concerning. Loose pills in a plastic bag flag for similar reasons. The scanner cannot distinguish pill types by sight, and any unidentified powder, tablet, or capsule in an unclear container triggers a manual review request. What to do? Keep all medication in original pharmacy-labeled bottles when possible. If you must use an organizer, use one with clear lids so the contents are visible through the scanner. And carry a printed medication list from your pharmacy or doctor. A single page with your name, medication names, and dosages. This does not exempt you from screening, but it dramatically reduces the time any secondary review takes because the agent can confirm contents immediately. Say this to the agent if you are stopped. "I have a medication list in the front pocket of my bag. I am happy to show you." This moves the interaction from a question to a confirmation in under 30 seconds. A 71-year-old retired nurse named Carol from Tennessee had been stopped at security on 11 of her last 14 flights. She carried a 7-day pill organizer in the front pocket of her personal bag on every trip. When she asked, "Can you tell me why?" and her next secondary screening, the agent explained exactly what the scanner was seeing. Carol switched to labeled bottles in a clear Ziploc, printed a medication list from her pharmacy, and placed them in a separate bin at screening. She has not been stopped once in the 8 flights since. She told her church travel group. 4 other women in the group made the same change the following month. Item 2. Compression socks and knee-high hosiery in carry-on bags. The situation: you pack an extra pair of compression socks or therapeutic hosiery, rolled or folded, into your carry-on or personal item bag. Why it gets flagged. Rolled compression socks, particularly therapeutic-grade compression hosiery, which is thicker and denser than standard socks, appear on an X-ray scanner as a dense, opaque, cylindrical object. Depending on how they are rolled and what surrounds them in the bag, the scanner may request a manual review of that area of the bag. This surprises almost every senior traveler who experiences it because the socks are so obviously harmless. The scanner does not evaluate harmlessness, it evaluates density and shape. What to do? Fold compression socks flat rather than rolling them. Place them near the edge of your bag against a flat surface rather than loose in the center where they can form a dense cluster. If you are wearing compression socks through security, you do not need to remove them. They will not trigger the body scanner. Say this if your bag is flagged: I have compression socks in the top section. Would you like me to remove them for you to check? Offering before being asked shortens the interaction significantly. A 69-year-old retired bookkeeper named Frances from Georgia had been stopped for bag checks on her last 5 flights. Each time, the check had focused on the same section of her carry-on. Each time, she had been cleared in under 3 minutes, but had missed her place in the security line, and in 2 cases, had needed to rush to her gate. When she unrolled her compression socks and laid them flat, her next 3 flights moved through security with no stops at all. Item 3. Certain herbal supplements and powders. The situation: you carry herbal supplements, protein powders, nutritional powders, or natural remedy powders in your carry-on, either in original containers or transferred to travel-sized bags or containers. Why it gets flagged. Any powder-form substance in a carry-on bag now receives heightened scrutiny under updated TSA protocols. This applies to protein powder, collagen powder, herbal tea powder, nutritional supplements in powder form, and natural remedies. If the container holds more than 12 ounces, TSA agents may ask you to remove it from your bag and place it in a separate bin for additional screening. Powder-form substances that are not in clearly labeled, sealed original packaging are among the most commonly flagged items for senior travelers who take natural health supplements. What to do? Travel with supplements in their original sealed manufacturer containers whenever possible. If you must transfer them, use clear containers with legible labels. For any powder over 12 ounces, remove it proactively before you reach the scanner and place it in a separate bin without waiting to be asked. Say this proactively at the bin: I have a protein powder supplement here. I have already placed it in a separate bin. Saying it first signals awareness and almost always eliminates the stop entirely. A 73-year-old retired physical therapist named Ruth from Colorado traveled with a collagen supplement powder she mixed into her morning coffee. She carried it in a reusable bag with a handwritten label. She had been stopped for bag checks on her last 4 flights and had been asked twice to open and explain the container. When she switched to carrying the original sealed container and proactively pulled it from her bag before screening, her next 5 trips went through without a single stop. She said it felt like being handed a key she had been searching for 3 years. Item 4. Certain medical devices and mobility aids accessories. The situation: you travel with accessories or supplies related to a medical device. CPAP machine supplies, insulin pump components, portable oxygen concentrator accessories, hearing aid batteries in bulk, or extra components for any implanted or worn medical device. Why it gets flagged. The accessories and supply components associated with medical devices often include small metal parts, tubing, wiring, or battery clusters that appear anomalous on both X-ray and body scanners. The devices themselves are well known to TSA agents, and in most cases are waved through quickly. The accessories and refill supplies that accompany them are flagged far more often because they appear as unidentified components rather than recognized devices. What to do? Carry a letter from your physician or device manufacturer that lists all components you travel with. Keep device accessories in a separate clear bag or pouch that you can remove as a single unit from your carry-on. Before you reach the scanner, inform the nearest agent. I travel with medical device supplies. I have a physician's letter, and everything is in this separate pouch. How would you like me to proceed? That phrasing, how would you like me to proceed, hands the agent control of the process and almost always results in a faster, more courteous screening. A 77-year-old retired engineer named Margaret from Arizona traveled with a CPAP machine and a full set of backup tubing, a spare mask, and 6 weeks of replacement filters packed into a dedicated bag. She had been stopped at secondary screening on every single flight for 2 years. When she printed a single-page equipment list from her device manufacturer's website, kept all components in one clear pouch, and used this exact script at the checkpoint, she was waved through on her next 4 flights with nothing more than a brief confirmation look at her equipment list. 2 years of delays resolved in one trip. Item 5. Snow globes, ceramic items, and dense decorative objects. The situation: you are traveling home from a trip and carrying a souvenir. A snow globe purchased at a tourist shop, a ceramic figurine, a heavy decorative item, a crystal object, or any dense decorative piece packed in your carry-on. Why it gets flagged. Snow globes contain liquid and are subject to the same liquid rules as any other container. And the TSA has specific guidelines about snow globes that most travelers have never read. Ceramic and crystal objects appear as dense, opaque masses on X-ray that require manual evaluation. These items are flagged at extremely high rates among returning travelers, and senior travelers who buy souvenirs for grandchildren are among the most commonly affected group. What to do? Snow globes belong in checked baggage, unless you can verify the liquid volume is within the approved limit. And in practice, most snow globes cannot be verified and are confiscated at checkpoints every day. Ceramic and dense decorative items should be wrapped loosely rather than tightly in clothing, because dense wrapping makes the X-ray image harder to resolve and increases the chance of a manual check. Carry your purchase receipt in an accessible pocket. It confirms the item's identity quickly if a check is required. Say this if your bag is flagged: I have a ceramic souvenir in the center of my bag. It is wrapped in a shirt. I am happy to remove it if that helps. A 70-year-old retired librarian named Helen from Virginia bought a hand-painted ceramic bowl for her daughter at a craft market on a trip to Santa Fe. She wrapped it carefully in 2 sweaters in the center of her carry-on. She was stopped at screening, had her bag fully unpacked, and missed her boarding group. On her next trip, she carried the bowl in a loosely wrapped single layer of tissue paper in its own section of the bag, with the receipt clipped to the outside. Her bag moved through screening without a stop. Item 6. Lithium battery clusters. The situation: you travel with multiple devices that use lithium batteries. A tablet, a smartphone, a backup power bank, a hearing aid charger, a portable medical device, a camera, a wireless keyboard, and you pack them together in one area of your bag or case. Why it gets flagged. Individual lithium-powered devices are expected and unremarkable on an X-ray. Multiple lithium battery devices packed in close proximity, particularly when power banks, spare batteries, or battery cases are stored together, create a dense, wired cluster on the scanner that triggers a manual check at very high rates. This is one of the fastest-growing flagging categories for senior travelers, as the number of devices older travelers carry has increased significantly in recent years. What to do? Distribute your devices through your bag rather than packing them in a single electronics pouch. Keep your power bank separated from your other devices. Place your laptop or tablet in the dedicated laptop section of your bag. Know that all spare lithium batteries not installed in devices must go in your carry-on, not your checked bag, and must be kept individually protected to prevent contact between terminals. Say this if you are stopped: I have several devices with me. I can remove them one at a time if that helps you see them more clearly. A 68-year-old retired teacher named Sylvia from Michigan traveled with a tablet, a smartphone, a portable speaker, a backup power bank, and a wireless keyboard, all packed together in a single electronics organizer. She had been stopped for bag checks on her last 7 flights. When she spread her devices through her carry-on and placed her power bank in a separate section, she moved through security on her next 4 trips without a single additional check. She described it as the simplest fix she had ever made. Item 7. Homemade or artisanal food items. The situation: you are traveling with homemade baked goods, homemade preserves or jams, homemade nut butters, hand-packed snacks, or artisanal food items purchased from a local market. Items that are not in standard commercial packaging. Why it gets flagged? Homemade and artisanal food items in non-standard containers flag for 2 reasons. First, dense homemade items: a fruitcake, a sealed jar of jam, a container of homemade granola, appear on X-ray in ways that standard commercial packaging does not, because the density and container shape are irregular.